We have a thought leader for you who's been driving change with innovation and with foresight. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special address that's titled The Future of Indian Economies. And to present these remarks, if you could please join me in welcoming Mr. Ajitesh Korupulu, founder and CEO of ASBL. Huge round of applause, please.
So firstly, I would like to thank the ET group and distinguished guests and from CREDAI team, Jaideep Garu, for attending this event, and ET group for giving me the opportunity to talk on my favorite topic. And I think the city building should become a mainstream topic for the next 20 years is what I believe. So I think it's cities, the future of Indian economy, right? So that's the key thing. So let me get a little bit into what we mean by this and how important is city building and how it's going to contribute to the economy. Right, so let me share some statistics, right? I'll try to keep it in a mixture of statistics and stories so that the message can be delivered. So very interesting statistic which I came across. So close to just 15 districts out of 813 districts in our country, right? Our country is divided into 813 districts. Just 15 districts contribute to 50% of the entire GDP. And naturally, one can imagine all these 15 districts are, city-based, right? All of them are cities. So that's the importance of, city building and cities in the economy. So even from a real estate and per capita standpoint, right? So this is an opportunity what the real estate is going to see over the next 5 years. So if you look at the dawn of the decade, right, roughly around 2020, we were $200 billion in terms of our market size pan-India. And currently we are $478 billion, the market size. But you see in the next 5 years, we are going to be $1 trillion market. Let me share an interesting thing. Currently, we are 8.5% of the GDP contribution comes from the real estate sector, right? Whereas by 2030, this is going to increase to 15% of the entire Indian GDP is going to be from the real estate sector. So that means the industry is almost going to more than double in the next few years. And we are going to be one of the major employment generator for the country. Right, so let me digress. Let me build up the use case of why we should be building cities, right? So there are two key aspects. One major one being the entire thing around employment. All of us know how important employment is. And in fact, there's a lot of discourse, both at the central government level and at state government levels, around employment in manufacturing. And seldom, the employment opportunities in real estate doesn't get discussed as much. So let me share some statistics. So we need to invest in the sector to, keep up the employment. And second, even to do value creation for our citizens. So I've just, pulled up this data to give you a perspective of what's happening in the labor markets, right? As you can see, right, agriculture is the biggest employer in the nation with close to around 230 million people working in the sector. And that is the per month average wages what people are earning. Right now, let's understand this with respect to the per capita income of the country, right? If you look, India currently, the per capita income is $3,000 per year, measured in terms of dollar terms. And agriculture sector sort of laggards that. They have like close to 1,20,000 rupees a year. So roughly around $10,000 to $12,000 is like 1 lakh rupees. So at an India scale, we are 2.5 lakh rupees or $3,000 is what the per capita income is. But one interesting thing to note is, if somebody is earning 3 lakh rupees of annual income, right, they will be placed in the top 10 percentile of the economy. So you can see how narrow the economy gets as we move to the top. Somebody earning 25,000 rupees a month will be in the top 10th percentile of the wage earning. So if you look at the average wages across sectors, right, agriculture is somewhere around 10,000 rupees, and manufacturing, which is talked about a lot, that also is somewhat slightly short of 20,000 rupees. But you look at construction sector, people are earning wages around 27 to 30,000 rupees. So it means if somebody is a laborer in the construction sector, they will be in the top 10 percentile of the economy. That's a key contributor of the sector. So we need to build jobs in this sector at scale, right? And how are we doing as a country? So agriculture currently is 230 million. It is going to further increase to around 300 odd million by the time 2030. Manufacturing and real estate jobs are pretty much same at around 70 million people are getting employment in this sector, manufacturing and in construction. By 2030, again, both of these sectors are going to employ 100 million each, right? So you're going to see an employment increase of 30 million each in these sectors. And again, this sector, at least construction, unlike to some extent manufacturing, is significantly AI-proof, right? Something which is on top of all of our mind is what is automation going to do with jobs? Well, in manufacturing, yes, we can expect some sort of threat, but construction, it's hardly anything. I would say negligible. So as our economy grows, we need to invest in sectors which is going to create jobs. And I would say AI-proof jobs. And that's where construction is going to stand out, both in terms of number of jobs, that is the volume of jobs, and in terms of even wage earning. So if we have to increase our country's GDP, currently from 4 trillion, and I think we have got a plan laid out that maybe in the next 7 years we'll be around 7 to 8 trillion, performance of this sector is going to be vital. If more and more people are moving into construction workforce, the per capita income, as you can see, simply goes 3x, right? That is your average per capita today is $3,000, will easily have at least two times impact. So it'll go to a $6,000 economy, thereby, keeping us firmly in the trajectory of a mid-income nation and then probably to a high-income nation. So this I thought was something interesting. So purely from an employment standpoint, this is the sector which is going to give more number of jobs per every rupee invested, both from the private sector or the government sector, not just in volume of jobs, but even in terms of pay as well. Right, so another roughly brief statistic which I wanted to share. So the level of employment also which gets generated for every million square feet of construction which happens, 6,500 direct and indirect jobs is what gets created during the span of construction, right? So, and then 71 million people are currently employed. By 2030, it's going to increase 50% to 100 million people. Right, next, so what I think is going to be, and what do we think is going to be the future, right? So currently, if you look, most of the industry we all build in part of, as an add-on to the city infrastructure, right? So the city is built, and then we bring in housing and office space and various retail asset classes. I think the future is to really open up the sector, right? To push it from $1 trillion of GDP contributor to 1.5, 2 trillion. We need to start planning for sort of satellite or a micro-scale cities of 1,000 acres each. Of course, in India, it's getting land is quite a challenge, right? So building, there are two aspects what's happening, working with brownfield cities like currently what we have, but we need to start planning for pure play greenfield cities, because any sort of changes which needs to be done in brownfield cities from smart cities perspective and all is quite complex and takes years of time. And frankly, we don't have that time, right? Our demographic peak is going to be somewhere in 2045. So we need to become a developed economy before that. So one key thing we should be looking at is planning like a micro-scale cities or satellite townships, what we call, roughly 1,000 acres. So let me put some sort of unit economics around this type of city building, right? Let's say we build to an average density of 75 to 100 residents per acre, right? Of course, there'll be office spaces. 80% of real estate is housing, 20% is auxiliary infrastructure and supporting infrastructure like offices, retail, and malls and all of that. So let's say we are housing 100 people per every acre. We need then a 1,000-acre city will have close to 100,000 families, right? And most of the people now living in gated communities and these sort of city-based real estate infrastructure, the average per capita income is around $50,000. That is, people living in cities in gated communities is as rich as an European, right? So the average per capita income of Europe is $50,000, and the average per capita income of people living in these communities is also $50,000. So there is that spending power, and they belong to 0.8 percentile of the economy. Now what they need is better products to unlock the value, right? And so that with these products, their productivity will go up, thereby their contribution to the economy is also going to go up. Let me share some of the I would say, the key philosophy around which these cities should be planned. First and foremost, traffic is a big bummer, right? We don't want, we see the amount of sort of frustration and the net economic loss which cities and people, citizens go through because of traffic, right? And I've just pulled up a data. So this is annually the amount of hours people lose simply by commuting. So commute time is actually very productive time, right? So saving good part of this will actively contribute to the economy. So yeah, first aspect of city building should be probably no cars on the street. That's how I would look at it. But we need to look at some feasibility there. But yeah, fundamentally planning it around walkability. And the next, as Jaideep Garu also told, the government also is now here working on a unified building policy where these sort of things are being taken into account and again form the basis for the new, new way of building cities. So it's about, again, it needs to be walkable neighborhoods. And next, it needs to have a lot of mixed-use zoning. If you look at India particularly, we have a very linear zoning. A building can either be a homes, or it can be an office, it can be a retail. But if you look at most of the real estate world over, it's mixed-use zoning. So you have like your prime retail zones, which is like the ground and the first floors being retail and the above floors being office and above floors being home. This is going to be the future because it brings in a lot of convenience. And next, planning for walkability, right? One thing common across all our cities is that hardly we'll see footpath. If at all we see, it's encroached, or maybe it's 5 feet wide, maybe one person can walk. We need to at least take away one lane from the road, make it 20 feet wide, so that people can fundamentally walk. And walkability will open up the commerce at the entire street level, wherein you can bring in a lot of local businesses to operate from there, thereby even pushing your small and medium scale enterprises. So this is how you can stimulate, demand in the economy, right? And then very, very important thing is the entire thing got to do with environmental sustainability. All of these cities should be planned with net zero concept in mind. Already there is good amount of policy in place where you can generate power from any part of the country or any part of the area within the DISCOM, and you can sort of use the government infrastructure for wheeling, and the power can be transported or sort of settled for that community. Thereby, even the cost of electricity which citizens pay can also come down by at least 20%. And all of that can be green energy. So these three and another important thing is water infrastructure, right? Currently, our urban planning, the water runoff is high. So, it needs to be designed for the water to be well sort of stored and things like that. And even statistically speaking, on any given patch of land, at least in semi-arid regions like Telangana and Hyderabad, the amount of rain what we get in 1 year is more than sufficient for usage by people staying in that area for at least 200 families. That's the amount of rainfall we are getting even in these conditions. All we need to do is somehow store that water. If we can make like large natural, low-lying water bodies, naturally it can act like a storage pit. So yeah, I would say the city building should evolve fundamentally around these things: traffic, environmental sustainability from energy and water standpoint, and next mixed-use zoning, which will principally give a push for walkability and small and medium-scale businesses, because those are the things which are now sort of vanishing. We want to give space for them. So before I conclude, I would like to point out to this another interesting thing what's happening in Hyderabad. The entire CM's vision has been the fourth city, right, or what he's calling the AI city. This can be again a big game changer for Hyderabad. So in terms of, again, for city building, just like for manufacturing, you need a good amount of land and probably skilled laborers. For city building, fundamentally, you need what? Your raw material is land. The more and more organized land supply comes in, the city building is going to increase. Increase in city building is going to create a lot more jobs, AI-proof jobs to be specific, and even high-income jobs compared to manufacturing and agriculture, right? So the fourth city is 30,000 acres. So that's an enormous opportunity, both from an industry standpoint and even from the citizen standpoint. It's totally greenfield infrastructure. So it will be again designed across state-of-the-art facilities, and I think that's where the Uniform Building Code also they are sort of bringing in to start planning the city on these sort of framework. So that's going to be a big sort of a game changer for Hyderabad. And again, the sort of planning 3 lakh plus jobs. But I think the real contribution is going to be from the city is the economic impact, right? Close to 1 lakh crores or $11.5 billion of per capita GDP is going to be generated from that city. It's per capita GDP at a city scale, right? So 1 lakh crores. So imagine just from a taxation standpoint, government is going to earn a revenue of just on payroll around 25,000 crores, and from businesses and service tax, it's going to be a lot more. So building cities makes government richer, people go, it gives more opportunities, and creates a lot of jobs at the bottom of the pyramid, right? So I think that's it from my side. I wanted to make a sort of a use case or a pitch deck for city building. And so, yeah, so thank you.
Lots of data download by Ajitesh. So first of all, let me welcome to the highly anticipated meeting of this ETNow.in Realty Conclave and Awards, South Edition. And to give a brief about Mr. Ajitesh, he's a LinkedIn top voice. He has a deep interest in construction, it goes without saying, but he has also deep interest in mathematics, economics, and philosophy. He's from Purdue University. And with his leadership at ASBL Group, he wants to redefine how the residential segment is being undertaken in different cities, especially in South India. So after so much of data download in your presentation, you are unofficially the real estate ambassador of Hyderabad. So now my first question to you is, whenever you imagine the bright future of Indian cities, what are the key elements, top elements that feature on your mind? Top 3, and why?
See, I think the first one should be walkability. That, to me, is the most paramount way of what a city should offer, the most important thing what a city should offer. And it will even reduce the traffic burden, right? Most of our cities are now designed in sort of a, I would say, the seclusionist architecture model, predominant coming from the US, where everything is sort of getting spread out, right? So the disadvantages with that is traffic goes up, right? You have seen cities with low FSI, actually the traffic is a lot more, right, than cities with higher FSI. So it's a very counterintuitive thing what happens. So yeah, first important thing is walkability. Next is got to do with your entire thing, got to do with energy, right? The concept of net zero, where we are sustainable from the standpoint of energy usage and even water storage and water usage, and even the recycling of water, because it needs to be like self-sufficient or a net zero sort of city. And good thing is we have got technology which is available cheaply today to do it. Today no longer is net zero a very far away thing and sort of an expensive thing. It's, in some cases, it's actually much more cheaper than the current solutions what are being offered to our citizens. So net zero is important, walkability, and mixed zoning. Because again, see, cities should provide livelihoods for millions of people. A city has no meaning if it doesn't generate livelihoods, right? So we need to make livelihoods both at various sections of the economy, right? So very, very important thing is your, sort of mixed use zoning, so that there is spaces for small and medium scale enterprises. Because if not, in this day and age of, internet and e-commerce and AI, we are seeing that the participation of small and medium scale businesses in the economy is dying, right? So we need to configure our cities in such a way that, there is good amount of commerce opportunity for all of them. And frankly, if it's walkable, then it increases a lot. So these 3, I think, should be the pillars of our city building.
And what's your view on the AI and data-driven approach when it comes to residential segment? How do you plan things at ASBL especially?
See, I think, again, just like how technology and AI particularly is disrupting a lot of sectors, the same way it's going to do for construction segment as well. At least in our case, we have done extensive research and investment in digital twin technology, where, sort of how to build a building is sort of trained to our AI, and now it decides how to build it. To the last most granular thing of, it could be a small thing of building some small skin wall or a small brick wall in a toilet, to the entire building. And frankly, even if you imagine, right, a building is nothing but a big Lego piece, if I may put it that way. Just that in Lego piece, you're just putting the blocks, which is homogeneous activity. In the case of building, it's heterogeneous activity. You do various different types of works. And essentially, there are sequences and a lot of sequences. So we have sort of modeled all of this, and over 5 years, a lot of data has been fed up on it, and now it's significantly capable of running our site, what work to do on what time, depending on what weather condition, and things like this. What this will do is enable us to manufacture at scale. And this will make our business look more like high-tech manufacturing. And frankly, I think construction these days is more high-tech manufacturing, So just like how manufacturing has significantly benefited with the assembly line architecture, so with the digital twins, real estate is also going to go in that path.
And AI, you spoke about AI-proof jobs. Tell us more about it.
Now see, I think this is a common question which I get asked in various forums is now that there's a lot of automation is happening, jobs are going to go. What is going to happen to real estate sector? Like, will people buy houses? So my answer is very, very clear. With this wave, at least a lot more housing purchases are going to happen. Let me tell you why. So if you look at the economy, right, and you look at automation, a lot of the automation is happening on the front-end jobs, right? Now, people working on the front-end jobs are not majorly buying homes as of now, right? Typically, if you look at the spread of how housing purchase happens in our economy, or more per se across economies around the world, it is the top 3 to 5% of an economy which can afford a house. Then the next 15% of the economy, 15 to 20% of the economy world over, lives in rental housing. And frankly, buying a house is not suggestible for them also, because a lot of your valuable income, which can go into your healthcare and child education, which are very, very important thing, should not be going into your EMI, right? So it's very healthy that the top 5 percentile should buy a house, and the rest can stay in organized rental housing, which I think there is a lot got to do from that aspect in our country, both from the industry and the government from the policy standpoint. But yeah, so essentially with automation, what's going to happen? The front-end jobs are decreasing, whereas high-skilled jobs are increasing. So you'll see a lot of college graduates who are probably earning 10 years back, right after college, something like 4-5 lakh package, are now earning 15-20 lakh package, at least in Hyderabad and Bangalore, and maybe some extents of Gurgaon. So the minute your income goes up significantly, purchase of costly items goes up. And what is the costliest purchase on a consumer's wallet? It's house. So yes, clearly housing sales will go up with AI intervention. Okay. And we need to make, more, and good thing with the jobs in construction is it's AI proof. AIs are not going to take away jobs in construction. I think we are maybe 20 years or 25 years away from labor bots. So we don't have to worry, at least for this generation. But yeah, unlike in manufacturing, there's some level of threats, but nothing in...
So job is safe for 20 years, unless there is labor bots.
I don't think labor bots are going to come in next at least 20 years, but yeah, okay. Totally safe in construction industry.
It's an investment question, but I just wanted to know your view on this. Buying versus rent, housing.
See, this again, sort of a very important question for millennials and Gen Zs, those are going to hit the market probably in the next 5 years. Is it, see, one cannot, I wouldn't recommend buying a house in your 20s, right? Don't buy a house because 2 reasons. One, you have just begun your financial life. Why do you want to pick up a long-term sort of a commitment then and there? And second, you don't know where your job is going to be. Could be in any city. So what's the point of buying a house and then you realize that your job has changed? So I would say 20s is not the time to buy homes. In 30s, even if we say no, people will buy a home because see, typically, as long as the family structure is intact, house buying is going to remain. Because when does the need for a house comes? The minute people marry and they start planning for a kid, yes, they need a sense of stability in their life. That's the fundamental route for housing purchases. Unlike all the investment returns and all, if you actually look, even majority of the housing purchases today are buying from a point of consumption and not from a perspective of investment, right? Buying like like having 2 houses, 3 houses has significantly come down because there are other asset classes like frankly the stock markets or even REITs and all, which are much more easy to transact. It's better to invest in those. So a lot of house buying is happening as a primary consumption. As the economy is growing, people are becoming wealthier and then they want to create an asset. That's how they buy house and,
Very honest answer, I would say. What do you think, what will emerge as the next key growth driver when it comes to residential segment, especially in South India?
See, I think the South is fairly, at least the top cities like Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, and maybe a couple of other cities are pretty much, I think, are in this generation 2 products. Generation 1, if you can see, were simple standalone buildings which just offered a home. That's it. Generation 2 sort of, we started doing it from 2010 onwards, which not just gives you a home, but even gives you a lot more facilities, Like it could be wellness facilities like the gyms and all these sort of things. And fairly this product category has now become mature. Now I think we are slowly moving towards generation 3, where we move towards planned cities or planned neighborhoods. Okay. Right? That I think is the next thing which is going to happen in these cities. Because see, frankly, if you want to remain fit or these sort of activities your community can provide for. But if you want to go for a good park or stroll to a nearby park, those sort of products are not there. So I think the future is going to be around planned neighborhoods and planned satellite townships, if I may call. That's going to be the future. Generation 3 is what I call them.
You spoke about the preferences. So any specific preference you have noticed post-COVID, especially in terms of wellness, gated society, parks, gymnasium, etc.?
See, particularly there is an exodus happening from your standalone buildings to gated communities. That is the thing which is actually fueling the enormous amount of housing absorption across the nation, particularly more so in metros, because naturally people want more services. More services are available in gated communities versus standalone buildings. Another thing what I have been seeing is, again, this is, I would say, is more predominant in Hyderabad and Bangalore. I don't know in other parts of the country, but pretty much I think, at least as a trend line I do see, is a larger balcony space is something what people are preferring. So it again sort of counterintuitive. It reduces your carpet, but sort of enhances your experience. So I think more experiential space is what people are craving for, even if it comes at the cost of the functionality or the gross utility of it, which is the carpet. So this also as a trend we are seeing, particularly in millennial buyers. Right? So, and I think as Gen Zs come into the buying stream, maybe another 5 years, I think this is going to increase more and more, because now people are more used to indoor-outdoor spaces rather than looking at home from a purely utilitarian standpoint or square footage standpoint.
So any ratio in mind of balcony area versus the inside area, the covered area?
I don't think a ratio particularly, but definitely a more room-sized balconies is what people are looking at. Generally, again, by balconies, sometimes what people think is linear ones. It's not linear ones, it's more room-sized ones. So much bigger, I would say, horizontal space, so that people can do their various activities sort of thing.
But it should be room size.
Preferably, yes. That's what they're preferring, right?
Okay. Any experiences or learning that you want to share at this platform as a CEO of ABSL, so that others can also learn and implement for the betterment and future of Indian cities?
I don't know if I can say those. I'm relatively young, so I've got a lot more
whatever
to learn.
You have, whatever you have.
But yeah, I think, see, one thing is the industry is becoming organized. You see the share of, market share of organized players going up much higher and higher. And a big part of becoming organized is having institutional capital play. Typically, if you look at this sector, there's a lot of non-institutional capital at play, right? And that sort of prevents us from scaling the business. So now we are seeing large institutional play increase, and I think that should be something which we developers should embrace. And second thing, yes, the regulation with RERA coming in has been a very, very, I would say, positive moment for the industry, right? So it does provide buyer a good amount of safety cushion so that they can comfortably participate in the market. And that is also one reason why you see the absorption is going up. And third, I think, yeah, we need to constantly innovate and sort of set up think tanks in which fundamentally the consumer as a stakeholder also has to be taken on board. Typically, I see in most, at least in this forums, at the industry forum level, the consumer participation is less. We need to take in the citizen participation also more and sort of devise neighborhoods which are more, I would say, happiness-centric or more like, livable-centric. Right? These, I think, is something which we strive to do. Institutional capital is something which we learned and helped us in scaling. So I would be happy to share that as a sort of a learning. So yeah, I would.
You spoke about RERA also. So after TG RERA, how you have benefited as a developer?
See, one thing what it's doing is definitely it's cleaning up the market space. Right? Now if you look, this has been a perfectly competitive industry. That is, the entry barrier for any new business to enter into the market has been very, very easy. Now, it's a good thing. Entry barriers being low is a good thing. But some of the cons of that is companies which might not have the wherewithal or the know-how also might come in from a more short-term perspective. And that actually creates sort of a distortion in the market space, wherein consumers also might lose money and all of this. So what RERA has done is it sort of puts penalties and these sort of things on the developers. So now, there is a lot more. People don't want to go that path because then the penalties can eat into their bottom lines. So what that's doing is increasing the sort of, I would say, the professionalism of your company. Thereby, you're having a lot more professionalized approach. And for the buyer, it's giving the safety net. Because see, whenever somebody is committing sort of to do a transaction in real estate, frankly, they're committing to 15 years of their life, right? And it's something which you can do not more than twice or thrice in your life. So it's a very big commitment. So these sort of safety cushions are needed. And I'm happy that that's what is happening.
When a regular home buyer goes to RERA website, he checks everything, does the scrutiny, what is RERA number, completion date, possession date. For the buyers who have delivered the projects, for the builders who have delivered the project. But what happens to those builders for them, for which it is their first project? In case a builder is coming into the market, what ideally he should do?
So if it's a new builder, right, definitely from the consumer aspect, and the consumer is also smart, right, the risk...
Because there is no profile to check.
Correct. The risk will be higher, right? So consumer will either ask for a deeper discount, which beyond a point also becomes a risk. But yeah, there's risk assessment goes up. And yeah, naturally I think for a first-time developer, they can sort of connect with consumers in a more innovative way. Now there are a lot of ways to do it at scale today. Technology is available, right? We ourselves also do through webinars. So there are multiple ways to connect with your customer and sort of address, I wouldn't say it's not possible to address all the home buyer anxieties, but good amount of them you can address. And frankly, if people see that somebody is there to sort of listen out and put in their perspective, they are willing to take that risk.
Okay. Now one final question. You have to name one city in South India which is emerging and has tremendous potential. And why do you think so that it is going to be a futuristic city?
My answer would be biased to Hyderabad, but nevertheless, I will
Other
support
than Hyderabad, if you have to choose.
No, I'll support it with data. That would be a better use case, right? Because frankly, I think in all of South, Hyderabad is going to be a beacon over the next 20 years. So for any city to perform from a real estate angle, first and foremost, you need large tracts of available land. Land availability. It's like if you have to become a big coal mining company, you need to have a very big coal mine. If not, you can't be a big mining company. So if you have to create a very new real estate ecosystem, you need to have large amounts of land available, particularly more so with government, not on distributed basis. See, in most of the cases, the problem in India is land is very fragmented ownership. Because of fragmented ownership of land, it becomes very difficult to pool large land. And unless you pool large land, you can't do long-term infrastructure, right? So good thing is Telangana government, like what we're seeing, the fourth city, 30,000 acres is what they pooled. Initially, I think it was some 12 or 15,000 acres. Now they are increasing it to 30,000 acres. So there's a lot of land parcels which are available, right? So that's one very, very important thing. Next is, I think something which worked usually in favor of Hyderabad is progressively various leaders have contributed to the civic infrastructure expenditure. So when it comes to civic infrastructure, predominantly I would categorize it into two things. One is everything got to do with your transportation ecosystem. That is great roads and metros, right? And flyovers and these things, which is where again we are one of the best positioned there. Our urban mobility stats show we have one of the best ratios, like 25.4 kilometers is what one can travel in an hour, compared to, I wouldn't like Bangalore is really not doing so great there, but again, I think they're going to improve. And second important thing is, here we have done extensive investments in water infrastructure. Again, something very, very important for I would say, new age cities, right? Frankly, it's unsustainable to pull water from the ground. It will not even be sufficient, right? Even if 10 families are living. So for modern metropolis, you need piped water. And again, Hyderabad is one of the best sort of laid out network of water pipeline, covering close to, if I'm not wrong, 1,400 square kilometer. Twice that of Bangalore, close to. And even water pumping is also double. What all of this has done is our per capita consumption of water availability is 150 liters per person per day. That's very, very, I would say, very ambitious and very high number compared to other Indian cities. Again, compared to global, we have some, still some journey to cover. But compared to other Indian cities, we are well positioned. So you'll not see the things which, You've seen like 3-4 years back where people were sending water tank, water in sort of goods trains to Chennai. Like there was acute water problem, and even Bangalore faced a lot of water problem. You will not see relative to that scale in Hyderabad. So water infrastructure is well positioned. And next, I think, is the entire employment opportunity. And again, when it comes to employment, I just don't want to keep it around IT because generally it tends to take the voice share.
Yes. Yeah.
See, to put in plain sight perspective, every year, now last year we did leasing of close to 12.5 million. And over the next 3 years also, we're sort of projected to do around the same, 12 to 13 million. Now, what does a million square foot means? Simply, a million square foot of IT space means 10,000 jobs. That's the number of jobs which get generated per million square foot. The average per capita space consumption is 70 SFT per employee. Put 30 SFT of common spaces and all, you're looking at 100 square feet per person is what? So a million square feet means 10,000 jobs. If your city is leasing 12.5 million square feet a year, it means we are generating 1,25,000 to 1,40,000 jobs a year. And these jobs are top of the pyramid jobs, right? Your IT sector where the per capita earning is very, very high. I mean, equivalent to, I would say, any developed economy. So naturally, when you're generating that scale of jobs in that space, there will be a lot of spillover effects, positive externalities, what we call, because people who earn more tend to consume more. When you consume more, you need a lot more mid and small businesses, wherein which, again, there will be a lot of employment. At the same time, Hyderabad is even the pharma capital of the country, and even sort of one of the top 5 ecosystems in the world from the perspective of pharma, like whatever, pharmaceutical manufacturing. So this is a major cluster for mid-level manufacturing jobs. Jobs in your 50 to 60,000 a month sort of zone. So there again we have hundreds and millions of jobs which are being generated there. And second thing, now in the south of Hyderabad, like again closer to Future City in this Kongar-Kalan area, there's a lot of jobs which are getting created in the industrial segment also. Okay. If you look, Foxconn has recently opened their phase 1 of their facility, employing 20,000 people currently. And by 2028, when it will be finished, they'll be totally employing 1 lakh people in one single
That's
compound.
huge.
That's huge. And in that entire south zone, with the initiatives of Fourth City and all of this, there'll be an employment opportunity of close to 3 lakh jobs. So we have high-skilled jobs which belong to the knowledge economy in the west, mid-level manufacturing jobs in the north, and in the south we have manufacturing jobs. So we are performing in all these areas. So I would say Hyderabad is the story to watch out for the next decade.
Okay. In a nutshell, you mean to say east or west, Hyderabad is best. That's
absolutely, absolutely. And you can even see it, like there are a lot of developers who are participating from various other cities also now moving here. Right. And that's a good thing, right? So the sort of city can sort of have expertise coming in from all sides of the country.
Yeah. Next
right.
big thing. Yeah. Thank you so much,
Thank
Ajitesh,
you,
for
Prashant.
such a
Thank
candid
you.
chat.